Welcome to this week's What's for Dinner video. My name is Ashley. I'm going to be showing you 3 different meals I made this past week. I don't always follow recipes exactly, but if you're interested, I've linked some similar recipes down below. The first dinner I'm going to be showing you was just an easy chicken and broccoli Alfredo bake. This is kind of inspired from the chicken Alfredo bake from Costco. So I am just going to start out with my chicken breasts. I have 1.5 chicken breasts. I just butterflied them in half, so I have 3 different pieces. I just lightly seasoned both sides with like garlic salt, garlic powder, onion powder, and some paprika, and then I am just going to grill them up. One of my tips to keeping grilled chicken nice and juicy inside is after you flip them, you just put a lid on it so that traps all the moisture and the heat. So after, I'm just going to dump my rotini noodles that I boiled and put back in the same pot. And then I have some broccoli, and I'm just going to use 2 jars of this Alfredo because I am using 1 full box of pasta. Normally I do love to make my own Alfredo, but for something like this, which is super simple, I don't hate the jar Alfredo just to get it done. I do like to season it a little bit though, so I am going to use some garlic powder and some garlic salt and maybe some onion powder. And then for a little bit more creaminess, I do add a little bit of sour cream. Because this will go in the oven, I want to make sure I can kind of make it nice and creamy because dairy tends to dry out when you bake it. So then I'm just going to transfer everything to a 13x9 baking dish. I just sprayed a little bit so it doesn't stick. I'm just going to throw that all in there, and then I'm going to sprinkle some cheese on top. I mean, like a good layer. And then I'm going to add my chicken on top and then sprinkle a little bit more cheese on. So then I just baked this at 350 for probably 10 to 15 minutes, mostly just until all the cheese is melted. Like I said, you don't want to dry out the sauce, and then everything was done. This is how it looked when it came out. This was super good and just super easy. I just put some garlic bread in the oven for my fiance, and dinner was served. The next dinner I'm going to be showing you, I just made some sesame orange chicken, some white rice, and broccoli. So I'm going to start out with cutting up my vegetables. I'm just going to use some white onion, some red bell pepper, and a green bell pepper. I definitely wanted to add a little bit of vegetables and color to this dish. Normally you don't really have vegetables like this in orange chicken, but it worked out just fine. So I'm actually going to cut them up into kind of dices, like squared chunks. I thought that looked really cool on a picture that I've seen, and I wanted to kind of cut them like that. So then I'm just going to use part of a white onion or a yellow onion. I think this is actually a yellow onion. Just a little bit. I'm just going to chop them up into dices. I love sauteing onions and bell peppers in a pan. It's like my favorite thing to do. So next I'm going to work on my chicken. I'm just going to cut these pieces into kind of 1-inch pieces. I'm not really sure, maybe a little bit smaller. One of our pet peeves of Chinese food takeout is when the chicken pieces are just too big. So I think I cut up 2 full chicken breasts. We had leftovers even after that, so this was a good amount of chicken. So next, I'm just going to marinate my chicken in a little bit of soy sauce. I like to do this with kind of any chicken that I'm gonna fry. I think the soy sauce just adds a nice flavor and adds a nice saltiness. So next, I'm just going to pour a bunch of cornstarch on the chicken just to make sure we coat every piece of chicken. I'm not going to be deep frying these. I'm just going to kind of pan fry them in a little bit of oil. So next I'm going to work on cooking my chicken. I just cooked them in batches. I think I just did 2 batches, so I did half and half. I just let them cook on every side till they're kind of nice and brown and a little hard to the touch. Once they were all cooked through, with my slotted spoon, I just kind of scooped them out of the oil and put them on a plate to kind of dry off, and then I worked on the other batch. I did add just a little bit more oil to the second batch so it didn't burn. So after the chicken was done, I just worked on my bell peppers and onion. At the same time, I should mention I do have 1 cup of white rice boiling away, cooking. So I'm just going to stir these and cook these down until they're nice and soft but not mushy. I'm going to add a little bit salt just for a little bit of flavoring. I also did not make my own sauce for this. I do like to make my own sauces kind of with Asian food. It's all kind of the same sauces mixed together. But for this one, I did have the Panda Express orange chicken bottle in my fridge that I used. And then I just added a little bit of soy sauce and hoisin sauce. So I'm just going to pour that in and stir it around, let it cook a little bit. That way it'll thicken up a little bit and slightly reduce, and then I will add my chicken back. So once everything's combined, I'm just going to toss it around together so that way all the pieces of chicken are nice and coated in the sauce, and then this will be ready to serve. As well with the rice, I just roasted some broccoli in the oven with a little bit of seasonings, the easiest way to do it, and this is how everything looked when it was done. The last dinner I'm going to be showing you was some country fried chicken, some mashed potatoes, and some broccoli. So I'm going to start out with my potatoes. I need to get them boiling. I love gold potatoes now. I'm a gold potato girl. I'm just going to cut them up into kind of small pieces. That way they can cook quick. I am making a lot of potatoes. I just kind of used however much I had in this bag. That way we had enough for leftovers after. So now for my chicken, I am just using what I had left over for the week. I had 1.5 chicken breasts. I like to butterfly the big chicken breasts in half, so that is what I did. I'm just going to lightly season the chicken because I did season the flour, and then we are putting some gravy over it. So I'm just going to do the flour, egg wash flour method for fried chicken. It's pretty self-explanatory. I know a lot of people prefer to do like one hand dry, one hand wet. I think I attempted that and then I was like, I just need to get it done. I'm very impatient. So once the potatoes were done, I just drained them and then I put them back into this pot. I will make these potatoes before I fry the chicken. That way everything is done kind of at the same time. I'm just going to mash these. These were super easy to mash. Gold potatoes all the way. They are so soft. I try not to do too much to potatoes. I feel like when you add everything in your kitchen, it kind of gets carried away. So I like to add some garlic, some milk, some sour cream, and butter, and then obviously like salt and pepper. So then I'm just going to mix everything together. This was super easy. Mashed potatoes are super simple. Don't mind, I'm literally stirring like a witch's pot. So after I mix that all together, that's when I like to kind of add my salt, just so I can kind of keep control of how salty everything is. I just add some garlic salt and some pepper and a little bit of onion powder. So the last step is to fry the chicken, that way it is nice and hot when you serve it. I also had just a little pot of some brown gravy cooking up, just the McCormick brown gravy mix. I also like to make my own chicken gravy with chicken bouillon powder and some flour, but I was like, I'm already doing a lot, let's just get it done. I am just going to plop 2 chicken breasts in the oil. I am just going to cook them until they're nice and golden on the one side, and then I'm going to flip them. This is how everything turned out when it was done. Again, I just roasted some broccoli, the leftover in my bag. This was super good. I'll definitely make this again. Thank you so much for watching this week's What's for Dinner video. Make sure you come back next week for another one.